Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. Another week, another edition of Hidden Tracks. Here today with Matt Carlson from the Stick-Arounds and HARBORCOAT, a couple bands that I found doing what I do and spending hours upon hours on Bandcamp, trying to find cool shit and new shit to listen to and give it to you, the listeners, to find something new too and give you the story. So, Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Shane.
It's our pleasure here. So I no longer just throw people into a genre. I let you explain where you think you fall into whatever genre or subgenre that you call yourself.
Wow, that's okay. So with the Stick-Arounds, I feel like it's a little more clear cut. That when we got that band together 11 or 12 years ago, the kind of the overarching philosophy was, the story behind it was my friend Jeff Gower, who I had known for years, playing in another band, and he was in a country band, like basically like a honky tonk band, and I was in kind of like an indie alternative folk band sort of a thing. And he called me one day and he was like, "Maddie, how would you feel about starting a power pop band with me?" And my first question to him was, "Where have you been my whole life?" And it just kind of took off from there. So I feel like with the Stick-Arounds, it's really simple. Like it's, I don't have like those hard and fast rules like the people in the power pop groups on Facebook do. I don't believe that power pop is something that stopped happening in 1988 or that it has to be a specific thing. But like that was kind of what we built it around. We knew we wanted it to be guitar driven. We knew we wanted it to have lots of harmonies and be really hooky and for the songs to be a little shorter. With HARBORCOAT, it's a little more, that's a more narrative based thing, I think. For me, that band kind of has its foot in a couple of different worlds. So on one hand, when we made this record, this newest record for HARBORCOAT, the shorthand that my bass player, Ian Walker, who helped me engineer and produce the record, the shorthand that we used was we wanted to make a record that sounded like Teenage Fan Club making a record in Laurel Canyon.
One of my favorite bands of all time, Teenage Fan Club.
Oh my God. Then yeah, we're going to have a long talk today. Yeah. Mine too. Top 5 for sure.
Definitely one of the most underrated bands, I think, of that entire era, and still to this day, because they're still fucking cranking it out.
It's amazing to me that those guys continue to make really consistently great sounding records that always feel like a Teenage Fan Club record, but never feel like they're rehashing the same territory.
Fact.
I just fucking love it. And I love those guys. And I love that. I love that they're still just kind of doing it their way. And like, they sort of embraced the dad rock angle a little bit. And, it's just tremendous. So that was the shorthand for the new HARBORCOAT record. And that project, I write all the songs. Whereas in Stick-Arounds, I write something in the neighborhood of 50% of them. Jeff and I are the primary songwriters. There are a couple of exceptions. Our drummer's written a couple songs. And so for HARBORCOAT, I feel like the genres are kind of all over the spot. There's like a little Americana thing. There's some power pop. There's some jangle. There's lap steel. There's mandolin. So there's even like some country instrumentation. But I never feel like it's all one of those things. Whereas I think with the Stick-Arounds, it's 3 guitars, 3 guys singing. It's straight ahead power pop and rock and roll. And in a way that having those limitations is really liberating because kind of what we're doing. And so we're trying to figure out how do we stay within that window, but stretch it.
Yeah. And I mean, listening to Is Elusive, just the track alone, I got to say, like the minute I heard it in my head, I got Neil Young like that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it was like Crazy Horse, like the background, like that's kind of what it sounded like. And I was like, oh wow, I'm like, you just bridge all over the fucking place. I'm like, and that's what's cool because I don't know what's coming, and that's what I love about music is when you're surprised at the next song.
Yeah, I think it's kind of that. I mean, and again, this sort of goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago with Teenage Fan Club. It sort of is that bridge of, I want this to make sense, whatever the next thing is going to be. It can't come out of left field and be totally ridiculous. But at the same time, I don't want you to just feed me the same thing 12 times in 42 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be, and again, even though the stick rounds have a much more defined kind of mission statement, if you will, I feel like we do a really good job with that. And some of that just is innate because it's two songwriters. And some of it is because there are two and sometimes three singers in the band who are singing lead. We're all capable of doing that. And so there's a lot of real estate that we can kind of cover all while staying in the same kind of genre or subgenre.
Yeah. And that's where, I mean, I've said it thousands of times on the show, like, and that's my honey hole when it comes to music is the harmonizing between like two lead vocalists, you know, some of my favorite bands, Big Star, Posies, Teenage, like that has always been, I mean, and I guess it starts with the Beatles, but for me, it's not even going to get into that. But I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think we miss a lot of, like to see where music came from and to know that the first pop band was the Beatles and you had, you know, two main focusing writers and then two vocalists and that's just having that harmony. For me, the Beach Boys, that's my band, that's my first band, that's hearing those harmonies and everything.
And that's like, if you're going to start a band and harmonies are going to be what you focus on, like that's setting a pretty impossible goal for yourself, right?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And if you do that, in a way, it almost feels derivative. If you do that, if you take some essence of that and go, I want to inflect a little bit of that into what I do, that's awesome. But if you try to do a straight up a copy of that, you're always going to look like a poor imitation of the Wilson brothers.
Yeah,
always. The other thing you mentioned the Beatles. One of the things that I kind of am shocked by when I see bands who play and write good songs, and then either they don't incorporate harmony at all, or they do it very, very sort of sporadically. And, it's not like, I don't want to say it's an easy thing to do, but it's very achievable to do it pretty well. Like, somebody finds a third, somebody finds a fifth, you even have two people basically singing the same part and the phrasing's a little different. You can do that and make a song that much more interesting and give people something to latch on to. I mean, I look at, for me, a great example of that is the Everly Brothers. I mean, again, that's a pretty lofty goal to try to achieve, but like, those songs sung by one person are good. You throw those two voices doing those things, and it's sort of like this otherworldly, like the alchemy of it almost doesn't make sense.
I agree totally with that. And I think that's where, and there's always, usually when you have, two vocalists, there's always, I would say there's a major difference in the two individuals who are doing it. I mean, you look at John and Paul, you look at, Alex Chilton, Chris Bell, right. John Howard, Ken Stringfellow.
The guys in Teenage Fan Club.
Yeah. I mean, and they're two completely different people too. And they write from where they're coming from. And like, if you look at people's solo stuff, like Christopher Bell's solo stuff compared to Alex Chilton's stuff, like it is worlds apart, but when they come together, this fucking magic that happens is indescribable. And I think a lot of people take that shit for granted. And to me, it's one of those things that I love to sit back in awe of, because I'll just listen to their solo stuff and then I'll put on, the regular album, and I'm just like, fuck, man, like these two completely different people just created the greatest magic I've ever seen.
Well, that's absolutely true. But then you've also got that sort of innate competition, and it's not like a creative competition. Like, you're not trying to beat each other, but you're trying to keep up with your contemporary. So when you have a bandmate, whether you're Paul McCartney or Alex Chilton or Norman Blake or me, I just ensconced myself in the work of my heroes right there. Oh well, it's just a podcast. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Westerberg in there too. Let's throw Westerberg in there.
Yeah, let's put Westerberg in there, and we'll put some Johnny Marr in there just for good measure. Um, but but like when you have a bandmate who brings something really great to a project, to a rehearsal, to a recording session, and you go, "Oh shit, I just got lapped," and you go, "Okay, I got it." Like there is a little bit of a fire or a competition that happens where you go, I don't want to have to shoot for the second best song on the record. You it sort of kicks your competition into gear in a great productive way. Because what you're trying to do is you're just trying to make your work better because somebody showed you something at a level higher than you're producing right now.
Yeah, and I think I've seen, sometimes when people get back together, like bands break up and then they go do their own solo stuff and they get back together. Sometimes I get a little disappointed because the new record of the band is almost like it's two solo EPs in one. Like you can tell the distinct difference now. It's just like they went off on their own. They wrote their own songs. Hey, I like this. And they're like, okay, yeah, that's good. But it almost comes to a point though, where it's like, now you just have two solo EPs put together and calling themselves the band name that they were at one point.
Yeah, I look at a band like the Pixies, who have now been a band longer as sort of a nostalgia act than they ever were as a band the first time around. And for fans who want to go see the Pixies and they want to see those songs, I think it's wonderful that they're doing that it exists, that it's a thing. But I don't see how those people, even if you were to find a way to sort of have a healthy relationship between those people and Kim Deal again, and she was back in the band, I don't see how you're ever going to get another Doolittle.
Yeah,
like that's just a moment that it's like a lightning strikes in that spot, and that is just a moment in time. You could get Morrissey and Marr back in a room, and maybe they could learn to work together again. I find that very difficult to believe, but let's just say it were possible. I'm not going to get The Queen is Dead and Meat is Murder again. I'm going to get something made by two guys in their early 50s. And that's okay. But to me, the whole like reunion thing, I think the reason it often doesn't work on recordings is that there's usually some kind of outward pressure leading to that reunion. So it's fans want to see those songs played again. Maybe you're celebrating an anniversary. Maybe people need money, and there's no shame in that. But I think in all reality, most bands don't last that long. They really don't. I mean, I've been in a band with these guys for 12 years. That's almost twice
ancient, man.
Yeah. I mean, and we're doing it at a time where like we're supposed to have moved on to other hobbies. Like we're supposed to be bowling every Thursday instead of going to band practice. And so I feel really, really grateful. I mean, I'm a dude who's going to turn 50 in May. And I still get to go out on the weekends with my best friends in two different bands, and I get to see some of the country, and I get to meet new people every time we play, and we get to kind of take our little carnival on the road once in a while, and it's great. But it's also great because there isn't any of that external pressure. There isn't a manager coming in. There isn't somebody who's like, "Hey, your portfolio doesn't look real great. Have you considered getting the stick-arounds back together?" Yeah. We don't have to worry about that. Now, the downside of that is we all have to have day jobs. So we can only do it so much and so often. But in a way, I almost wonder if that sort of leads to the longevity, because it's not 40 or 50 hours a week, 50 weeks a year.
Yeah, and I think that's what breaks people is when their constant focus is, and what a lot of people don't understand who just hear a song and listen to music. 90% of what you listen to, they have day jobs. And the music's fantastic, but no one wakes up and is the Foo Fighters. Like it doesn't happen.
No, and in this day and age, it's getting even more and more difficult.
Yeah.
Right. And this is a conversation I've been having with a lot of people, both in the world of musicians and then in the world of fans, where it's like, I don't know that most people either are aware or want to take the time to really understand how the financial structure of the music industry works today. It's always been a little squirrely, with the way that labels own, somebody's recorded version of a thing, So like somebody thinks, well, Bob Dylan owns Blonde on Blonde. No, Bob Dylan probably owns the publishing to those until he sells them to somebody. But Blonde on Blonde, Bob Dylan paid for that whole thing, and then Columbia still owns it. So like they send him an invoice for all the promo and all the physical copies they made and all the studio time and all the marketing and advertising.
And it comes out of his
pocket. And again, he's fucking Bob Dylan. So I'm not worried about Bobby D making money. But my point is, like, name me another industry where I pay for everything and then you still own the thing. I mean, that's like saying I just paid the mortgage on my house for 25 years and I paid it off 5 years early. But Bank of America still owns my house.
Yeah.
It doesn't, nothing in the rest of the world works that way. And now you've got sort of this weird dichotomy of there are fewer gatekeepers so that people like you can find people like me, right? Yeah. So we live in a time where anybody can make a record, but nobody can get paid for it unless you're Dave Grohl or unless you're Taylor Swift or unless you're Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting paid. And, I sort of started this because we were talking about having day jobs. We don't expect to get paid. But there's a 19-year-old kid out there who wants to have a life where he doesn't have a day job. And are we going to create an ecosystem in which that's even possible?
No, I don't think we can get there now, especially, like you said, I mean, for me, my thing isn't Spotify and having someone pop on a playlist. Like for me, that's too easy. That's why I like the dive into Bandcamp and hitting on everyone's stuff and listening to a bunch of songs and be like, all right, this is good stuff. And as soon as I like something, that's like, I ordered your CD right away. And I was just like, okay, here it is. I like it. I'm buying it because I know what happens to people. And they probably printed all of them awesome. And they're not going to make all that money back. But I want someone to know that there is someone out there that cares, that's willing to buy your stuff.
And it's so wonderful that you get how that works, that you understand the reality, sort of the impact of, like, for most people, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but for most people, spending $10 on a CD or $20 on a record is a pretty minor purchase. I mean, you're going to spend.
It's a fucking coffee. It's a right. Coffee at Starbucks.
It's a value meal at McDonald's or whatever you want to call it. And so you're talking about sort of a throwaway purchase. And if a handful of people do that for an artist who feels like they're sort of pissing in the wind at this point, to have that come in and have it be somebody whose name they don't recognize in a place they've never been to, like the mileage you get out of that as a musician, like that'll carry you for days. It's amazing what a little purchase like that can do to somebody's hopes and dreams.
Yeah, and I think that's the lost art, because I mean, growing up in in the 80s and then in the 90s and going to small shows and being able to, like, that's where you went to small shows at VFWs and firehouses and you bought someone's 7-inch because that's what was prevalent at the time because it was really cheap to make.
Yeah.
And you got to see the artist and, like, say, yes, no, you guys are great. I'm buying your merchandise in front of you. And now that kind of stuff is kind of harder to do. So the whole dichotomy of everything has changed, and the Bandcamp thing, that's what I loved about it, especially, like, I would only purchase, which is now gone, but the Bandcamp Fridays, so yeah, you guys got more of it. But that's the kind of stuff where too, like, people finally get a song on Spotify and they're like, this is awesome, I got 5 million downloads of this song and I've made 11 cents.
Yeah,
you're giving your soul up for what?
And because of the way, like, if you want to be an active live performer, you have no choice but to use Apple Music and Spotify. There isn't an alternative, because the booker is going to want links. And they might ask for a YouTube video so they can see what you look like as a live band, but usually all they want is a place where they can go listen to your music, where they can find it quickly, and they don't have to pay for it. Now, Bandcamp will do that, and I've sent Bandcamp links to bookers. But if you have a guy who he makes a playlist of the bands that want to play at his club, and he makes it on Spotify, If you're not on Spotify, he's not going to take extra time to go find you on Bandcamp because he's going to pull up this playlist and listen to it on his commute.
Yeah.
And he's going to go, that's good. That's good. That one I don't think is right. That's good. That one sucks, whatever. But like, if you don't play that game, it's going to make it that much harder to book shows, and booking shows is already a pain in the ass.
That it is.
And again, I don't want to sound like it's not the Spotify and Apple Music thing is not a complete awful 100% negative thing. There are positives to it. But if people think by paying their $10 a month to whatever subscription service they want to use, if they think that's supporting music, they're wrong. What you're doing is you're actively killing people. Not killing people, but you're killing the financial viability and ability of people, not just to make a living, but to even pay for the art they're creating as a side hustle.
Well, yeah, and that's the big thing too. And that's where, like, I have seen bands already that have like come out with an album. It does fucking great on Spotify and Apple Music, and then they break up because, and it's not like they break up. They're just like, yeah, we can't do this anymore because it's not financially viable. And they put out something that's fucking amazing, and you're like, I can't wait for the next thing, but you're never going to get that next thing because it's not financially viable for them.
Right. Even if it's just something as simple as, okay, we made enough money on this to pay for more studio time and to pay for 500 CDs. Even if it's just that. Because there are, again, a lot of these, what I worry about is like, I feel like the people who have made it to the point in life that I and my bandmates are at, where we're in our, middle-age years, and we've basically said, okay, this is too important to stop doing, and we love doing it, and it's a huge part of our lives. We're going to keep doing it because we have jobs that will afford us the opportunity to spend a little bit of money and then build up enough of a reputation that we can go and play shows and not lose our ass. But what happens to the 22-year-old kid who makes a bedroom record and then he needs to get a better mic or a new guitar or a synthesizer? And all of a sudden, you're 22 years old, and like $1,000 is a lot of money. We're not talking about, you need to go out and buy a new Casio that's $59 at Radio Shack. Radio Shack was an old school store for the children listening to this podcast. But I sort of feel like there are so many hurdles that have been removed, but with every hurdle, there was a reward that was removed as well. And I feel like it's been kind of this really ugly sort of trade-off.
Yeah. And I mean, the point that you bring up too is, when you are 22 years old, I had this conversation with someone. They're like, oh, were you at the original festival 20 years ago, since they just had a reunion of it? And I was like, well, no, I wasn't. They're like, oh man, you missed out on a great thing. I'm like, yeah, but at that time, 20 years ago, I was 24 years old and didn't have like putting all the money together. As I sat down with my wife and was like, this going to this 3-day festival, how much it just cost us. I'm like, at 24 years old, who the fuck had that kind of money to do that? And that's the same thing with trying to make a record. I mean, you need to have a better mic. You need to have a better computer, better software. And nobody had, I wouldn't be able to have started this show when I was 24 years old I don't make a dime off of this.
Right.
It's a passion thing. And every time I put out an episode, it costs me money. It's not, no one's paying me to do it.
And clearly what you've done is you've made the decision that I get enough joy out of doing this, that it's worth my time and it's worth a little bit of money for this thing to exist in the world. It's the same choice that everybody makes if they decide they're going to go on vacation or go on a golf weekend or go out to a fancy dinner. You decide that I'm going to spend money on this because it's worth the reward that I get in the end. I can remember in like the mid-aughts, I was in a band called Pantones, and we put out a record that came out 2 weeks before Christmas because I was stupid and I didn't understand. Even in my early 30s, I didn't understand. You don't put a record out 2 weeks before Christmas. We did that because the record was done and we were really excited about it. And we should have just put it out in March, but we didn't because we're dumb. But we had this huge release show and we had like 200 people there. And I think we sold like 65 or 70 CDs that night and some t-shirts. Made $1,000 in merch in one night. at a release show. Now it's a release show, but there are touring bands who aren't making $1,000 a night every night selling merch.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is in 2005, if you saw our show or heard us plug it on the radio or saw a newspaper article and you wanted to listen to that record, you had to buy it.
Yeah.
Couldn't go find it somewhere for free. And now what we've done is we've basically said, here's all of the music in the world. Here's every single song. Go listen to it. And then there are no other conditions or terms that apply. It's just here. It's all here. Imagine if every movie that had ever been made was available on Netflix for $12.99 a month. How would Netflix be able to appropriately pay for the content that they have? They wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
They
It'd be
wouldn't.
over.
That's exactly right. And you'd have 40 other streaming outlets that went out of business. But with music, people don't ask that question. They don't look at it and go, this doesn't make sense to me. How am I getting this much shit for $10 a month? They're not asking that question because for the consumer, it's perfect. It's great. If you don't think about it and you don't have any guilt associated with it, it's fucking awesome. Because it's a hell of a deal. I'm an Apple Music subscriber. The thing is, when I find new music, I buy it. I buy a record. You know, I'm a vinyl dork, so I'll spend $25 on a record if I find a band I like.
Yeah, listen, I'm a physical being. That's why when I found HARBORCOAT and I was like, all right, they got a CD, I'm purchasing the CD. And it's like, I can listen to it right here and I'm going to download it. You know, I can buy the digital version. I was like, well, I want it in my hands because one of my favorite things to do as well is go through, you know, CD collection or my records or tapes and just be like, oh my God, I forgot about this and put it on. And just
yeah,
like,
that's the other thing. Like with the whole streaming service thing, there has to be a lot of intent behind it unless you're just following the algorithm. Whereas if you go to your shelving unit and you're like, oh, damn, I haven't heard that record in 10 years. I need to pull that out. And then you put it on and maybe it takes you back to another place in time, or it just sparks a renewed love for that particular band. That's a really sort of magical little experience that happens almost by accident, just simply because you've had this thing laying around for a decade that you kind of forgot about. Yeah.
And I mean, that whole algorithm thing of, you know, where are you going to fall into? How long is your song? Is it 3 minutes and 31 seconds? You know, is that 1 second too long to fall in somewhere? And I think a lot of people now, content creators are, you know, you're kind of writing a song to fit into an algorithm, which to me isn't a song anymore. It's a computer program. Like you're just a programmer now.
Really, I can't imagine trying to approach songwriting that way. I just like, that seems so, I mean, I'm sure people do it. It just seems so foreign to me. I mean, you know, we put out that HARBORCOAT record in October, and we were kind of joking about it when we sent it to mastering at the end of the spring last, I don't know, April or May or whatever. And we sent it to mastering and we labored over the track list. Like we wanted to make sure the sequence was perfect because those are all little short story songs basically. Mm-hmm. And there are a dozen of them. And I wanted the whole narrative to kind of unfold the right way. And so I went back and forth with my bandmates and got input from other folks that I know. And there was all of this work that went into it. And then after we sent it off to mastering, I was like, how many people are actually going to listen to this 1 to 12 in order? And the answer is not very many. Even if a lot of people listen to that record, and I hope that they do, there will be a lot of people who will put it on shuffle. They will pull out 4 songs that they really like. They will add 1 song to a playlist. And I sort of see the playlist thing as a new version of the old-fashioned mixtape. But at least my rationale with the mixtape was always, I'm going to put this on a mixtape for somebody else so that you'll go and you'll buy this whole record. For me, it was like, okay, I know this person fairly well. What's a good entry point for this band or this record? Mm-hmm. And then you hope that they go on a journey. You know, I don't know that people are using playlists and sort of digital mixtapes like that. But I also don't think people are using music in a way that necessarily the way that artists promote it or put it together or sequence it. I mean, that was, say what you will about Adele. I thought that was a really boss move on her part to go, no, don't just automate this and put it on shuffle. Like, I put this together as a record because it's a record. And if you want to take it out of order, you need to at least put a little effort into taking it out of order.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up, the journey through music. And I mean, what for your life, I mean, there's a pivotal moment, and I always coin it first musical memory, but there's two pivotal moments in your life. Your first one is when you hear you're a young child and you hear music. And then your second one is when you find your own thing later on. But do you remember your first musical memory? Like the first time you heard music? Like I remember mine was the Beach Boys. I've said it 100 times. Beach Boys in the back of a 1979 Oldsmobile driving down the Garden State Parkway, going to my aunt's house.
What song was it?
Little Surfer.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Was it, do you think, how old were you?
I was 6.
Okay. Do you think, was it the harmonies that attracted your attention?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
It was like nothing I'd never heard before. And like my parents always had music on in the car but when I heard that as something changed. Like that Christmas I asked, I want the Beach Boys, something from the Beach Boys. And I still have my cassette that my mom bought me, the orange cassette of the greatest hits of the Beach Boys. Like I still have it because it was that pivotal of a moment in my life and career in music that was it.
That is super awesome. I don't know that I have a first memory that's that specific. I have a couple that I either remember vividly or they've been told to me. I was probably 3 or 4, and my mom tells this story because I don't remember it firsthand, but she's told it a number of times. There was this kind of like, I don't even know how you would describe him. He was just a pop vocalist. His name is Bobby Goldsboro. Do you know him?
No.
Okay. And like, you shouldn't. It's not a big deal. But like, he had a handful of like soft rock hits in the 70s. And he had this one song called Watchin' Scotty Grow. And it's kind of this cheesy narrative story about a dad watching his son grow up. And I haven't listened to it in years, and I don't even particularly like it. But my mom loved to tell this story that we were in the car together, and she looked over, and when the song was over, I was crying. Because clearly that narrative had gotten to me at like 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one. But I wouldn't say that was foundational because I don't really like Bobby Goldsboro. But it's kind of wild that like, I think as kids, we're able to be in tune with stuff and know when something is sort of striking an emotional chord, even if we don't necessarily understand why. And then one of the real early things that I remember was I was probably 7 or 8, and my aunt, who was 20 years younger than me, so she was 27 or 28, my aunt gave me a little portable turntable, not like a Fisher-Price thing, like a real portable turntable that I could have for my room. And she bought me records. And one of the records that she bought me Rock Lobster by the B-52s. And I like didn't understand what I was listening to. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. Like, it was a party on vinyl. It was just wild. And I was like, what made her think I would like this? And then the more I listened to it, the more I liked it. And I remember, I think there were 5 of them, and I don't remember them all, but I remember the other one that I remember was Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. And I remember just being so jazzed that I could play my own records, even though somebody else had picked them out for me. Mm-hmm. I could play my own records in my room, and I could make those choices. Because I did like the stuff that my mom played when I was growing up. My mom listened to a lot of early Beatles, but there was a lot of Simon and Garfunkel and Cat Stevens. I grew up on classic country from my grandparents, so there was a lot of like George Jones and Hank Williams Sr. and Merle Haggard and that kind of stuff. And then my mom also listened to, the 70s mom kind of stuff, the Eagles' greatest hits, which now I would pull off the turntable and break in two. But as a 9-year-old or whatever, I didn't really understand how fucking awful it was. So it was a lot of that stuff. It was a lot of like sort of that 60s, early Dylan, that kind of stuff. It was a lot of folk music in my house, a lot of country. So a lot of roots music got played, and I remember being really, really interested in that, and really falling in love with John Denver at a young age. And I still love John Denver. I know it's cheeseball, but I love it.
No, listen, you're allowed to. It's your thing. I mean, and that's the that whole our segment was called Guilty Pleasures, but it's, you know, when you get to our age, it's like, fuck off. It's good. I don't give a shit what you say. Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's mine. I like it. I don't give a shit if you do or not. It means nothing to me, your opinion on what I like.
Yeah, I love it, and you don't have to, you know. Yeah, I think for a long time, especially when you're kind of like developing your taste, you don't want to admit that you like stuff that people have viewed as lesser.
Yeah.
And then you start to get, like you were saying, you get to a certain age where you just go, those people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They like what they like, and then they've decided they don't like this other thing. And there's stuff that I vehemently hate. I mean, I just shit on the Eagles, and I'll probably do it again before we're done talking.
Hey, listen, I'll shit on them too, but the only thing we got to give them is that they are the number one selling American rock band of all time, which is fucking blows my mind, by the way.
It's a staggering indictment of the stupidity of the American people, but it's also a cold hard fucking fact. And clearly that struck a chord with people. Like, they, 40 years after they made their most famous record, 40 years after they made their most famous records, they're still selling records. Like, clearly it's got staying power and longevity, even if you and I don't like it. But for me growing up, it was that sort of switch that made me really excited was when I got to 11 or 12 and I got to start picking out my own records and buying. The first record, and this is a little bit embarrassing, but I will tell your listeners anyway. The first record I ever bought with my own money was Seven and the Ragged Tiger by Duran Duran. And
that's fine.
Yeah. And
they're awesome.
Yeah. Well, that was the record where it started to go downhill. It was like I joined the party late. But again, I was fucking 12.
And you're trying to find something for yourself.
Yeah. And I think the same day I bought a couple 7-inches. I bought Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton. And I bought Centerfold by the J. Giles Band. So clearly, I was just buying shit that I heard on the radio that I really liked. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in Michigan, where we have a 10-cent deposit on every bottle. And so my folks would let me take the bottles and cans to the party store and return them, and then I could use that to go to the record store and buy what I wanted, or to go to the department store in our small town. And get, the 7-inch that was number 4 that week that I'd heard on the radio and really liked.
Yeah. And the whole thing too, with people, when somebody judges you for your musical thing, I'll throw this, for instance, out. Last week, I go to our local record store, in there all the time, become friends with the guys. And like, I go to pay and they look at the records I have and they're like, man, I just don't fucking understand you. I was like, what are you talking about? And like, if I give you my list, it's like I literally walk out. I have a Nina Simone record, DRI record.
Hold on. They're shitting on Nina Simone? Are you shitting?
No, it's just like how different the stack in my hand is as I'm walking out. Like Nina Simone, Mars Volta, DRI, Hot House Flowers, Lita Ford, the Thompson Twins, Belinda Carlisle, and a Duran Duran record. And they're like, what do you fucking like? Like, what is your musical? I'm like, dude, it's good music. It doesn't fucking matter. We don't have to pigeonhole and just be like, well, I am only buying hardcore records today. I'm like, listen, these are all fucking great records and I want to listen to them. And it doesn't matter how far you branch off into many different directions. It's just
exactly
good stuff.
And like my rubric when I walk in and I'm trying to buy a record at a record store, or I'm hearing something for the first time on satellite radio or terrestrial radio or a streaming service, is the song any good? If the song's good, I'm hanging around.
Yeah. A good song's a good song. That's what I always say. It doesn't matter who fucking does it.
Yeah.
A good song's a good song.
The production might turn me off and that might keep me from buying it. I may not like the singer's voice. I may not like the instrumentation. I may not like the recording technique, but a good song is a good song. And people with talent are people with talent. And you can recognize that somebody is fucking talented, even if you don't like what they do. And I think we've gotten to a point where, like, there is this sort of cynical poser mentality where, like, you can't even go, wow, I'll give it to Taylor Swift. She's super talented. Like, if you don't at least look at her and go, she's got chops, you're fucking lying. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not into that. It's not for me. It doesn't need to be. But if you look at her and go, oh, fuck Taylor Swift, she's, there's nothing there. You're wrong. I mean, I know Adele just shut down every fucking pressing plant in America so she could make 500,000 records. And my philosophy was, good for her. If you're going to have a bunch of soccer moms go out and buy her record, if that's the way to get people buying music again, fucking ain't right. That's great. She's wicked talented. And who am I to get in the way of people that like it? I don't have to listen to it.
No, and see, and that's one of the greatest things is I don't have to listen to it. Like, you have that choice or that option, and you don't always need to shit on something, which is the way of the world nowadays. It's let me find my tribe and I'm going to stick with them because we're all going to shit on the same thing for absolute zero reason. It's like, you don't have to watch it, you don't have to listen to it. You can choose. You have that choice. Like, that's one of the greatest things about being a human being is you have a choice to do something or not do it. But to shit on it, especially when something is good, and like, I don't have to understand it. I mentioned earlier in the show with, like, I don't want to get into the Beatles thing because I understand why they're so revered.
Yeah.
But I don't have to I don't have to like it. Like,
no.
Listen, there's some good song, but for me, and like, people are like, I can't believe you don't. I'm like, no, dude, no, I'm not arguing with you. I get it. I get why you like it.
My bandmate,
but
Jeff,
I don't have to.
My bandmate Jeff from the Stick Arounds is in the exact same boat you are. He's like, look, I get that it's brilliant. I get that it's important. I'm just tired of hearing about it. And I totally understand that. It's one of the reasons, I just went off on this whole diatribe about how I'm not going to shit on anything, and then I'm going to take it back to the Eagles. And the reason that the Eagles fucking bother me so much is you can't escape it because it's such a part of the sort of like second half of the 20th century musical culture. It's everywhere. So I go grocery shopping. I don't hear Adele. I hear the fucking Eagles.
Yeah.
I go get my oil changed. It's the fucking Eagles.
You get in the elevator, you hear the Muzak version of Hotel California.
I go to the bar and they've got one of those digital jukeboxes before the band starts. And somebody's like, what I haven't heard is Witch A Woman. I haven't heard that in a while. And you're like, what the fuck, dude? And literally anything else would be, well, no. Because I was literally at a bar when we played a gig in October in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And the guy played like 3 really good songs. I don't remember what they were. Then he played Hotel California, and then he played a Kid Rock song. And I was like, I hope we're getting combat pay for this fucking gig.
What was the first thing that you found that was like you took ownership of and like you just really wanted to show people, like when it came to music?
So that really happened in late middle school and early high school for me, where I kind of you go through that stretch where you're basically listening to everything that's on Casey Kasem.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you're being told what to listen to.
Yeah, and I still think a bunch of that shit's great. Like, I defy you to tell me that Little Red Corvette's not a fucking jam. And so there was a lot of like Prince and Madonna and Duran Duran, and by the time I got to the mid '80s, we had MTV, so a lot of that like early MTV, sort of first wave stuff. But by the time I got to late middle school and early high school, I was starting to get into the whole college rock scene. So at that point, that was when I discovered REM. That was when I discovered the Smiths and Depeche Mode. And then that led to the Replacements and Echo and the Bunnymen, and then eventually the Pixies, Stone Roses. So a lot of that like 80s college rock stuff was really where I sort of found my niche. And I went to high school in a small rural school, and so I was a weirdo. I wasn't into Bon Jovi and Def Leppard, and I wasn't into muscle cars and chewing tobacco and that stuff. So I was weird, and I was a theater kid, so that was doubly weird. And so I got to a point where I just
We're
kind of
literally the same person, just so you're aware. You just described me, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why is he doing this to me?
there are a lot of us sad motherfuckers out there.
Yeah, there are.
We exist, and we coalesce around stores that sell flannel and craft breweries, record stores, and live shows.
Yeah,
and you will see us. We are like the vampires of the hipster dad world.
Yeah,
and we will come out usually only until about 10 o'clock at this point in our lives. But we're out there. We're out there.
Rarely stay for the encore.
Yeah, we're out there. You're like, I gotta get home.
Listen, I know they're coming out for an encore, but everyone else here young is going to stay, and we need to get out of the parking lot.
Like, when you start saying shit like, "Oh, if we go now, we can beat traffic." If you start saying stuff like that, like they'll send you a gold-plated dad card for that kind of behavior. Like, well, we ought to get to the airport 3 hours ahead of time. Should we?
Yeah. I'm at that point. I'm also, I was in the military, so I am that person who, no matter what, all my friends make fun of me. They're like, okay, the party starts at 3 o'clock, but let's tell the Murphys it starts at 5 o'clock because they'll be here at 3 o'clock. Like,
okay, so my philosophy there is then the party doesn't start at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, see, I have a bandmate that's the opposite. He's habitually late, and I love him to death. Now, I will say, in all fairness, he showed up to the gig yesterday 20 minutes early, which was shocking to me, and I was thrilled. But like normally, it's like, okay, let's tell Dave that practices at 7. We'll tell Dave that practices at 6:30 when it's actually at 7. Yeah. And then Dave will be on time.
Yeah.
So he's the opposite. And I imagine that with that military training, you can't unlearn that shit.
No, it's ingrained. It was, we had the Army Navy game last weekend, and my wife, bless her soul, like, I'm like, we have to be there early, wait for the gates to open so we can tailgate. And literally there's a line of cars an hour before they even open gates, like all the way out onto the fucking highway. And she goes, what do you expect? You're all fucking ex-military. And everyone's been here since 5 a.m. to get in at 9.
And every single one of those people made their bed and bounced a fucking quarter off of it before they left the house.
Hey, he accomplished something first thing in the morning.
That's right. That's
what it is.
Yeah, I never understood. Yeah. You're old enough to remember. Do you remember the Army commercials where the selling point was, we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day?
Oh, yeah. It was our motto.
Yeah. So for a guy like me, that was just like reason number 6 not to join the Army. It was like, listen, if you guys were talking about doing some shit around like 3:15, I'm in.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you do after lunchtime? Like, what does that look like?
So let me get this straight.
No commercials for that.
Let me get this straight. You get up, you do 8 hours worth of work before 9 a.m., and then you just keep on working. And there are people out there who find this appealing, because it's not for me. It's just not for me.
See, I did it because I needed it. So
gotcha.
I was like, I didn't know what else to do.
No.
And I was like, let's just do it. And I did it. And I was like, wow, this is great. And when can I get out?
I don't know. We went down a little bit of a road, but that was fun. So I guess what I to get back to what we were talking about, sort of that mid 80s period was when it kind of clicked for me. And then I found a few people who got excited about it, and we would share stuff with each other. And then I was lucky enough that I lived about 10 or 15 minutes from a really great record store in East Lansing, which is a college town. And I was blessed that the owners would drive to Detroit every week, and they would buy this local paper called the Metro Times that came from Detroit. And that allowed me to kind of see what was going on in the big city. Like, Lansing's not tiny, but it's only, about 100,000 people. And other than the university, not a lot of stuff would come here. Yeah. So we would get bigger shows, but we didn't get a ton of, sort of mid-level touring bands. There was some of that college rock thing that came through because we had a good student radio station here. And then once I discovered Metro Times, I realized, oh shit, they also have New Musical Express and Melody Maker, and they had that every week. And so I would go, and sometimes I wouldn't buy a record. I would just buy those 2 newspapers. Did you ever read those growing up?
Melody Maker, yeah.
Okay.
And then I was, I was very into the DIY punk scene, so like fanzines were like the shit around here, especially I'm right outside of New York City, so like I was very lucky in being able to have all that smaller stuff and college rock, and if you want to go to a big show, it's always there for you.
Yeah, and like there were sort of these little pockets where, we had a magazine like that in East Lansing called Etch for a few years. And it was largely punk, but basically if you were putting on house shows or putting out self-release cassettes, that stuff got covered. And we had, because there was a university here, we had a pretty vibrant music scene for a pretty small city. And so even in high school, I was able to go in, and if I could find a way to get into a show that wasn't all ages, I could go see bands that were at the time, well, they were 4 or 5 years older than me, but they seemed like grown-ups. So like I'm 16 and they're 22 or whatever. And like, it was like getting to go see local heroes. And then that, sort of, you find out that, oh, this band's into Sisters of Mercy. And then you find that is, and you go buy those. And then,
what was your first concert ever?
My first show ever, I saw Sting at the Palace of Auburn Hills, where the Pistons played for a long time, on the Nothing Like the Sun tour in the summer of 1988.
It's a good first show.
Yeah, it was. A
lot better than mine. So
what's your Shane?
Kenny Rogers.
How old were you though?
I was young.
Okay, so someone took you to that.
Yes.
You don't have any ownership for that.
Well, but it's still like, if someone asked me what my first concert, that's my first concert, and that's just what it is.
I still say
my second one was even worse. So
please do tell.
Barbara Mandrell.
Oh wow! See, here's the thing: I had a big crush on the Mandrell sisters when they had that show on in the late '70s and early '80s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have enjoyed I don't think I would have enjoyed a live performance, but I thought the Mandrell sisters were babes.
Yeah, I saw her right after, like she was in a bad car accident, and it was her coming back thing when I was a kid. My parents had to drag me to it.
So your parents then were obviously into country.
Yeah, my dad was. My dad was like, my dad was very Motown doo-wop because, and then he got into folk music, in the late 70s where it was like Gordon Lightfoot and Bob Seger every fucking Sunday was what my dad was listening to on. Like that's what.
Hey, and I'm from Michigan, man. You can't besmirch the Sieg. We have a code. They'll take away your driver's license if you talk shit about him.
I still love, listen, if I don't know what I want, or if I'm on a road trip, there's two records that I listen to like on a road trip when I just want to like be into a road trip, and it's CCR's Greatest Hits and Seeger's Greatest Hits. Like that's the two, and I'm like that's road music to me. That is the quintessential road music.
You could do so much worse, like so much. Like we were talking earlier about Teenage Fan Club being super underrated. I think CCR are incredibly underrated. I think people know 4 or 5 hits and they think that's all there is.
Yeah.
And they don't realize how tremendously great that band was.
Well, that's also my thing where I have this category where I call it an overrated, underrated band. That they're overrated because we're like, I fucking hate that song. I heard it so many times, but they're underrated because no one ever really listened to everything else. And like, that's my thing, like, is one of them that I throw out to people all the time too, is like Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz is a fucking star, and if you listen to his greatest hits record, it's 35 songs, and you don't realize, holy shit, I actually know all of these. Like, and it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, this dude stood the test of time, and you don't realize how much you know of Lenny Kravitz's music, but it was also like he had 3 songs that just fucking made your ears bleed because they played it so many times that fuck this guy.
Ever need to hear Are You Gonna Go My Way again?
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
But like that's a killer riff, I actually saw him open for the Rolling Stones in 1994. And they were great.
Yeah.
They were great. And so I got to see that and I got to enjoy it, and then like I didn't have to have any other engagement with it except for the fact that it was on the radio every 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And at that point, when it was radio and MTV, like that's why you just get sick of something, because you watch the video on the top 10 countdown on MTV, as we always did when we rushed home from school. You got the countdown coming, and then turn on the radio and those same fucking 10 songs are there, and you're just like, fuck.
Well,
how do we get away from it?
And the other thing too is that I think in a way, because of the way everything's kind of splintered with streaming services and YouTube music, and people kind of, music has become a much more individual thing. It's always been a personal thing, but it used to be that you would put a record on and the people in your house would hear it. And now most people don't do that. They're listening through earbuds, or they're listening in their car, or God forbid, they're just listening off the speaker on their phone, which is just terrifying. That's the other thing. You spend all this goddamn money to make a record that sounds great, and then you're like, somebody's listening to this on an iPhone 6.
Yeah.
Not in headphones, not through Bluetooth, just on the speaker of an iPhone 6.
In a solo cup to make it louder. Throw it in a solo cup to make it louder.
Set it on the back of the toilet while they're taking a shower. And you're like, fucking A, get a Bluetooth speaker for God's sake. I'll give you $25 to get one off of Monoprice. Just do it. But like, I think one of the things that's happened is because music listening has gotten so individualized, and there are so many options, that everything that sort of reaches that point where we're talking about somebody like Lenny Kravitz, now there's almost no way for somebody like Lenny Kravitz to get to the point where he has like cultural saturation, because it's going to come down to 2 or 3 or 4 people at a time. And so it's going to be these, 5 female singer-songwriters, because that's the flavor of the month. And then next quarter, excuse me, next quarter, it's going to be like right now, I just look at what's on my Facebook feed, and everybody I see is talking about Anderson .Paak and Adele and Taylor Swift. So, I've got people who are my friends who are 22 and they're 72. And in that 50-year window, there's only going to be so much that's going to cross over where a bunch of people know about it.
Yeah.
And then everything else that would be like Lenny Kravitz, or would be like, even a band like Nirvana. I don't know that it's going to have that kind of cultural cachet and sort of capture the zeitgeist of the moment the way that it did even 15 or 20 years ago. And I think that's only probably going to get worse. It's only going to get more individualized.
Yeah, no, and that's like, I love how that crossover, how you brought it. Like, my niece is 20 years old. My father is 78.
Okay.
They both listen to Adele and scream it at the top of their lungs.
Okay.
and that is that crossover where like my dad pulled into my driveway one day in his Corvette with the top off and Adele's blaring. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, this is so good. I'm like, wow, you just blew my mind, old man. Like, that's.
And, again, I feel like we've spent an unhealthy amount of time talking about Adele in this podcast, but nonetheless.
I'm renaming it the Adele podcast.
Just make her the guest. Just make me second fiddle, whatever. More people will listen to it, I guarantee you.
You're probably right, but that's not the point of this.
But Shane, isn't there something kind of remarkable about the fact that somebody's work can bridge a 50-year gap like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible. And I guess what I sort of feel like we're losing is, I think there are other people out there who could fulfill that same thing, that don't have to come from some major mountaintop. They don't have to be a massive artist. It's like, here's somebody that I just found out about in the last year that I am amazed at the diversity of people who love it. It's that Black Pumas record.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a friend who is a hardcore punk. He's a crusty 50-year-old dude, and I love him. And he's complaining the other day about how fucking good this song is, but he keeps hearing it. And I'm like, and then my wife loves it. And then, some 23-year-old that I see talking about it on Instagram loves it. And then there's some 65-year-old woman who I know who was like, I can't wait to get tickets to see them when they come here. And it's like, so that's a band that felt a lot more organic than somebody like Adele. And I like that, and I think that record's cool. I'm not going to get like super stoked about it or anything, but I think it's great that people love it. And I think it's exciting that people are finding a way to get access to something that, a year ago was completely under the radar.
Yeah, and I think there was a band too that some years ago really did that too, and that was Alabama Shakes. It was literally like your parents could like it, you could like it, and then your little nieces and nephew could like it. Like it just crossed so many boundaries.
Yeah, you could have three generations that could go to a show and all have fun on their own.
Yeah. Now let's stop talking about other people's stuff that they're doing.
Fair enough.
So the two bands that you're constantly playing in, Stick Around as HARBORCOAT. So this is going to probably be a hard question for you. But if there comes a time where there's people out there that have never heard of either of those bands.
Yeah.
So if you met somebody and they said, "Oh, you're a musician. What are your band names?" What song would you play them from the Stick Arounds that said, "Okay, this is who we are"? So you can say, "Here's your intro into us," and the same thing for HARBORCOAT. What song would you do for Stick Arounds, and what song would you do for HARBORCOAT?
So I always go with first guess is the best guess. If you're unsure. And so the first thing that popped into my mind for the Stick Arounds is the first song I really wrote for that band, which we still continue to play. We've played it more than any other song we've ever written. It's called Fire and Rescue. And it's really the first time I really felt like I was contributing to that band in a really important way. And it's still a song that we've played it hundreds of times. I still get excited to play it. I still love playing it. It's the story of this blue collar dude he's a fuck up, and he gets fired from his job working for a fire and rescue ambulance service. And so he just tries to find ways to fill his days. And he realizes that he's kind of over the hill and there aren't a lot of options but like, it's totally rocking, and it feels like a straight ahead power pop rock and roll song. And I just love
it. All right. HARBORCOAT, what's the song you would pick out of that?
This one is harder. But I'm gonna use the first guess approach, and I'm gonna say High Water. And that is not completely unsimilar tale. Again, this is one of the more rockin' HARBORCOAT songs. And it's the story of a guy who, again, I write about fuck ups a lot. Sometimes it's autobiographical, and sometimes it's a projection of our own.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, so largely my songs tend to be a projection of my own experience or the things that I see around me. So they're not most often they're not like direct retellings of things that have happened to me. They are a little moment or a little thought or a scintilla of doubt that grows into a narrative about a fictional circumstance that I could easily see myself falling into, but doesn't necessarily really happen. And this is a guy who's working at an insurance agency, and he, isn't invested and doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. And he's kind of floating along, and he goes to a funeral, and he runs into an old girlfriend, and he thinks about all the, what happened. And he realizes that he peaked in high school. And I've known people like this, and I'm terribly sad for them. Even the people who treated me like shit in high school, who peaked at 17 or 18. I just can't imagine what it must be like to live your entire adult life feeling like the best thing you're ever going to do is already behind you.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be like. Like I never thinking about something like that too. Is like I look back at high school. I'm like, yeah, no, it was high school. I'm glad I'm not there anymore. Like it's over. It was something I had to do.
Like the classic example for me is "Glory Days" by Bruce Springsteen. Mm-hmm. Like I enjoy that song, but like to me, that's not a celebration. That's a cautionary tale. That's a story of a guy who. He can only look back on this small window in his life where he had some degree of success, and he can't get past it, and he can't do anything that's better than that. And like how profoundly sad that must be. I am so glad I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm always I never wax poetically about the past. It's always I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, I will engage in nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia's good, but I never just be like, that was the greatest time ever about something. Like it's just, there's going to be a new experience today, and that's what I'm living for. That's what I live for.
Yeah, you got to stay in the moment.
Like this, talking to someone, on a Sunday, we're hanging out. You're in Michigan, I'm in New Jersey, and like this is what I long for. I long for that new thing.
Well, and
you need it.
And for me, and I think for almost all my bandmates, the greatest thing about this is the human connection. So obviously, there's that very, very apparent sort of intimate familial relationship that exists with a handful of people in a band, kind of working toward a common goal. And that is very much like a family. There are good days, there are bad days, there are times when you are on the same page and times when you are just button heads. But you love each other, and you always realize that even if this is driving me nuts today, we're working towards something. And then there's the sort of exterior part of that where you go play shows and you meet other bands and you realize you find people who you just have a lot in common with and you really like them. And then people like you come out of the woodwork and they go, I love your music. And then we have a conversation, and within a half an hour, you're going, you just described my life.
Yeah.
Like to have that, there's such an amazing, that's such an incredible opportunity. It's such a gift, that I can sit here and go, I wish I got paid more for my songs. And I wish I didn't have to have a day job. But like at the end of the day, I feel incredibly grateful that I get to do this. And then I get to have conversations like this, because that means I get to spend time with people who I can learn something from their experience, and we share a similar worldview, and we can get excited about the idea of original music being put into the world to make it a better place.
Yeah, and honestly, I think music's one of the only things in this world that can do this, and that's why I call it all the time. I say it's the universal language of the world is music. It's the only thing that. I'll say it again. You go to Japan and they don't even speak the language, but they're screaming your lyrics at the top of their lungs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that to me is like, that's fucking amazing. It's like, they probably don't even know what we're saying or what, what it means. They just know that they love it. And that's like the fucking coolest thing in the world to me.
That just seems staggeringly awesome. That you can connect with people across a language barrier, across any number of societal hurdles, and arrive at a point where you're all there for the same reason, and it's all done out of joy and love. Like that's almost unheard of in this day and age.
Yeah,
like
and
we are
again,
so fractured.
What else comes close to that? Like what other thing out there does that? I mean, you can, maybe artistry, which is a broad stroke, but
yeah, I would say maybe cinema can do that in a way, but that's not, live music is a completely different entity than going and watching a film in the dark with strangers.
Yeah,
and I love film, and I think it's an amazing way to communicate ideas and feelings. But it doesn't have the same sort of emotional impact of standing in a room, watching a group of people do a thing, and realizing we are all here just for that. We came here from different places for different reasons, with different viewpoints and different pocketbooks and different colors of our skin. And we all came to see that. And when this is over, we're all going to go back to where we came from.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there to watch a thing happen in front of us that will never be replicated again. Even if they play the same set the next night, it'll never happen like that again.
No, and it's you're spending an hour in a place with friends you never knew you had.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
And then they become friends that you do know you have.
Yeah, because you start talking, and that's one of my things of where this show came from was my enjoyment of meeting a stranger at a show and talking about music. I go to lots of shows alone by myself. So for some reason, people come to me, and like, it's almost like that cosmic magnet you may have around somebody, where the two people at one show that may be there alone are now together because they connected on something, and that's starting a beautiful friendship, and it's fucking crazy, and it's awesome how it works. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know why it does what it does, and I'm happy I don't.
I think it's great that you're willing to accept that, like, it doesn't matter whether or not you understand it or that you can break down the formula. That the fact that it's beautiful and that it happens is all that you need to know.
Yeah.
I had an experience exactly like this in the fall of 2016. I went to move my daughter to Columbia College in Chicago, and I had tickets. Let's see, that was on a Friday night. No, it was on a Saturday night, and then I had tickets the following Monday to go see Teenage Fan Club at a club in Detroit. And I got into town, and I got the Chicago Reader, and I'm going through it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, holy fuck, Teenage Fan Club are here on Saturday. And we were going to be there Friday through Sunday. So Friday, we moved her into her dorm. And Saturday, we went out to breakfast. And we're out of breakfast. And I'm like, what are you guys doing tonight? And they're like, I don't know, we're probably going to go do some shopping or whatever. Do you want to go do some? I'm like, I'm going to go see Teenage Fan Club at the Bottom Lounge. And they're like, okay. So I got an Uber, and I go over there. And managed to get a ticket like on StubHub or some shit. And I get there, and the show's amazing. And they get all done. And I'm kind of hanging around waiting to talk to a couple of the dudes because they're chatting with people. And I see this one other guy sort of doing the exact same thing. And I go over and I introduce myself. And we strike up this 20-minute conversation. We wind up becoming friends on Facebook. He has literally come to see us every time we've played in Chicago for the last 2.5 years. We engage with each other on Facebook. I'll message him once in a while. We are friends. And it all came from just being willing to hang around a little late at a Teenage Fan Club show on a Saturday night.
Yeah, it's so amazing to me just how it just happens. Like it really is. And that's again why, one of my things is, I've had this conversation before, is sometimes I don't want to know why someone wrote a song or what it's about, because it means something completely different to me. And that's, I also think what's great about music is because you can write a song from a perspective, right? And you can tell me what that song is about. But to me, it can be something 100% completely different. And sometimes I don't want that curtain pulled back because it already means something to me.
Sure. And I think the other thing that's really important, if you're a writer, is being able to be aware and understand that, like, yes, you have ownership over your song, and it means whatever it means to you, whether you intended it to be that way or you realized it after you finished it. But once you record it and you put it out in the world, that is not the only definition that's going to exist.
No, it doesn't belong to you anymore.
If you're doing your job and you're reaching even a handful of people, that is going to have some kind of an impact on them in one way or another that probably isn't going to jive with your viewpoint because you're two different people with two different sets of experiences. And to me, that isn't terrifying. It's gorgeous. I love it. Even when it's interpreted in a way that I'm puzzled by it, I still think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's, I enjoy a conversation with someone about where we connect on a song, and sometimes it'll come up and I'll say, what does that song say to you? And then hear their version of what it says to them, and I'm like, wow, we are like miles apart in what we think the song means to us, but we both love it, and it doesn't. In the end, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. So let me put you on the spot since you did it to me. If you had to, because you've been really kind about your praise for my work. If you wanted to sort of tell me one of the songs that you heard that made some kind of an impact, it doesn't have to be like life-changing or anything. I would love to hear it. And I won't even tell you whether or not it doesn't jive with my viewpoint. I would just love to hear it, just to find out, just to sort of put this theory to the road test.
All right. Let's see. I am bad with names of songs.
That's all right.
So, because I usually go by tracks
okay.
nowadays in life. But so off of Brutal Gravity, Decades to Crest was the one where for some reason, what happened, like I heard the song and I heard like 14 other things that I loved in one song.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like all of a sudden it hit me of all these other bands that it just immediately reminded me of. And I was like, fuck, I love that there's something new, someone new that can remind me of something I already love. And that's not to say, and I know some people will be like, oh, it sounds like this band, so I'm not going to get. No, I love the fact that there's a new band that can bring me back to something that I loved, but I don't have to go back and listen to that. I can listen to this because this is new and exciting and fresh for me.
That's a very high compliment. I mean, you don't want to sound like you're just
you don't want to be a cover band.
You don't want to be you don't want to be a poor man's Smiths or a third-rate imitation of REM, or you don't want to be, some fourth generation version of Echo and the Bunnymen. Mm-hmm. But if you can make somebody feel, and I'm not saying you necessarily thought those things when you heard it, but if you can make somebody go, oh, I see a connection between this and the bands that I love, and then you start to think, well, they must be bands that this band loves, so there's some common ground there, but it doesn't really, it reminds me of those things, but it doesn't sound like those things, then I think, for me anyway, that's mission accomplished. I don't have a problem if my influences come through, unless they come through in a way that it sounds like we're trying to recreate it. And if we're not doing that, and you use the word fresh, so I think that's perfect. Like, that's sort of the escape clause of this. Like,
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, so I've had conversations with people like, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard of Greta Van Fleet, right?
Yeah, they're from Michigan. Yeah. They're from Frankenmuth. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've heard of them, but when they came out, I got into an argument with somebody. I was like, dude, they're amazing. They sound like Zeppelin, but it's fresh. It's now. And the comment was, well, if I want to listen to Zeppelin, I'm just going to put on a Zeppelin record. And I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from, but this is new. Like it's new. Some, one or two of the songs did sound exactly like it was on a Zeppelin record, but it's also new and fresh. And that's where when you can have a fucking, group of teenagers who can bring you back to, oh my God, this is fucking Zeppelin 1969. That's pretty fucking cool.
I also find there to be a great deal of irony in somebody getting mad at somebody ripping off Zeppelin when that's pretty much what Zeppelin did.
Yeah.
Like, they basically, and I will say, Led Zeppelin are my version of your Beatles. So they're a band that, look, I get why everybody thinks it's great, but I don't want to listen to it. And I had it shoved down my throat for, I don't know, 20 years. And I'm just like tuned out on it. It's like, yeah, it's great. But like, can we move on? Can I hear something different? Like, I get made fun of mercilessly because the rest of my band, the rest of the stick arounds absolutely fucking love Zeppelin. They love it. And they love to poke me about it. And my thing is like, look, if I wanted to listen to songs about hobbits and Robert Plant's dick, I'd be all in. I'm not that interested in either one of those things.
Oh my God. And one of my friends who it's his favorite band, he loves Robert Plant's dick and Hobbit. So it all makes sense.
I mean, look, everybody's got to have a hobby. Sometimes it's hobbits and Robert Plant's joint. I don't know. If that's what you need to get through life, who am I to get in your way?
Oh my God, just bad visuals going on right now.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden I just thought of a hobbit's dick for some reason. I'm like, what is it
looks exactly like Robert Plant, actually. That's how it works.
Oh God.
I also joke around because I'm a huge Small Faces fan. I joke around all the time about how much I would have loved Led Zeppelin if Steve Marriott had gotten that job instead of Robert Plant. And that didn't happen.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Now
gonna get a lot of haters probably.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And I understand. Look, again,
I get it all the time when I talk about the Beatles, and
I realize
people try to convince me, and I'm like, listen, I get it. Stop trying to convince me because I don't give a fuck at this point.
And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not saying they suck. I'm saying I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think for some people that's almost more upsetting. Like, it would be easier if I just went, I fucking hate Led Zeppelin and they're terrible. But like, I don't think that. It's not for me. I don't care. I'm not interested. Can we have a conversation about something else?
Yeah.
Can we talk about why the Kinks are the most underrated band in the history of the universe instead of why I should love Led Zeppelin?
Yeah.
No,
I get it. And that is the conversations that, you say, like, to you, the Kinks are the most underrated band of all time. But no one wants to have that conversation.
No.
They just want to keep telling you why fucking Zeppelin's the greatest of all time.
Well, and there is, and I'm certainly guilty of this. There is an innate human desire when you love something so unspeakably and someone else doesn't get it. For your own sanity, you want to convince somebody else they're wrong because you don't want to feel wrong, right? Yeah. So if I were to sit here and tell you all of the reasons I love the Beatles, I'm not doing that for your benefit. I'm doing it for my benefit.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's the fact that, anytime you have conversations about greatest of all time, or, who's underrated, or who do you think could have done better? I mean, it's all personal opinion, because there really aren't, you can't go to numbers.
No.
You can't go to anything. It's all opinionated.
I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago that was really fun, and one of the things they wanted to do, because it's this guy and his daughter.
Is that like you're saying that was really fun, and now you're fucking bored here? Like,
no. I'm not saying that. This has been incredibly fun. This has been incredibly. For one thing, they had they wanted to do it without a bunch of swear words, and they're very sweet people, but they wanted to sort of protect their family rating, which I totally get. And here we just let them fly. And that makes me feel much more comfortable and in my element, Shane. I'm not.
Yeah, because you're not thinking about the word that you wanted to say.
Yeah, what? like the TV edit of Big Lebowski, where instead of "Do you see what happens when you fuck a stranger?" or "When you fuck a stranger in the ass," it's "Do you see what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps?"
Yeah.
Which is actually why Phoebe Bridgers named her record "Stranger in the Alps," actually, which I think is great. But they asked me to do something really fucking difficult when we're talking about the numbers thing. They asked me to pick my 5 favorite REM records and my favorite song from each of those records. And I worked on it for like 2 hours. And even when I gave them my answers, I was less than confident. And I was like, okay, here are my answers today. So how you can go, this is the greatest record of all time, or this is my favorite band of all time. Like that, to me, that shit feels malleable, because I'm going to go through phases.
Yeah, and it's what's prevalent at that moment and what you're completely into. And like when I started this years ago, it was, you asked that proverbial question because it's a Rolling Stone question. What's your favorite band? Right. I've changed that whole narrative, and my thing is, what's the band that's never let you down?
Oh, see, that's a really great question. So then you get into, I presume you're asking me this question.
Yeah.
Shane?
I mean, all right. I mean, it's there for the taking.
So I would say for me, the no-brainer is REM. I feel like the last 2 or 3 records were kind of just okay. But I look at literally everything through Up, and it's just, they don't really repeat themselves. They grow as musicians and as songwriters, and they get more confident, and they get into different ideas and different arrangements, and yet it never feels like they're making a record that's not REM. Mm-hmm. They're always making an REM record. And that was one of my first discoveries. I was probably 14 when I heard Fall on Me. And I was just like, what the hell is this? This is amazing. And then like that was an MTV thing. And then I didn't really think about it anymore. And then I heard The One I Love. And then I was like, I need to get some shit by this band. And so I went out and I bought Document and Eponymous, which was their greatest hits IRS years thing. And it just sort of took off from there. And I've had periods where I didn't listen to them for, months or even years at a time. But like probably in the last 10 years, I haven't gone more than a month or 6 weeks without listening to an REM record. Oh. And I just like, it just never goes away.
Yeah. And listen, you're one of the first people you are the first person that's had REM for that. And I have a really weird relationship with REM to the point where like I just never understood it. And
Okay.
I did have a really amazing moment because of REM. Ken Stringfellow from the Posies played guitar for him when they toured, and it was Ken's birthday or whatever. They were playing a big show and invited me down, and we had second row, and I'm like, it's fucking REM. Like, I mean, whatever. I never understood them.
Okay.
Go to the show. We're in the second row. I watch REM perform. And I literally look at my buddy. I go, that was the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
I'm like, what did I miss? Like, what did I miss? And this is like in my, I want to say, late 20s.
Okay.
And I'm just like, what the fuck did I miss? And now I got to go get into REM. And then I literally went through their entire catalog because that's what I do. I'm like, all right, now I got to figure it out.
Yeah. Listen
to it all. I still don't get it.
And it could just be that moment, right?
Yeah.
It could just be you were there and that was what you needed to get an opportunity to understand that band.
Yeah.
Even if you don't go back and listen to the records. My bandmate and bass player and dear friend Ian Walker, who plays in both HARBORCOAT and the Styx, he is 10 years younger than most of us. He's 38. He'll be 39 in February. And Ian knows how much we love REM and made kind of a good faith effort to try to get into it. And it just never clicked. And then he got a copy of Murmur. I think I lent him my copy. And he listened to it and he was like, this is a great record. I totally get why people love this band. I totally get it. And then he listened to some other stuff and he's like, I really just want to listen to Murmur. And so for him, I think some of it's timing, right? I mean, I'm 14, 15, 16 and falling in love with this band, and you have a different relationship with stuff at that age than you do when you find a record when you're 40.
Oh, absolutely.
And then, there's also the built-in advantage of, okay, if I'm 40 and I just fell in love with this record, I've loved this other record for 25 years. I've loved this record for 65% of my existence on this planet. So it's hard for them to compete with each other, right? Because part of it's in your DNA and the other thing is a new thing.
Yeah.
It happens. It's just very rare, and I think we also change as human beings as we get older, and we're not kind of, even somebody like you and even me who are kind of out always seeking new stuff. When you're doing that, it's always almost because of an effort. Whereas when you're younger and you haven't heard a lot and there's this thing happening at the time where you're the right age to receive it, it probably is just going to get delivered to you in some sort of accidental way. You see a video, you hear a song on the radio, somebody recommends it to you, and then you go down this little private rabbit hole, and then you come out the other side, and there are other people there to share that with you. Whereas when you're 40 and you find something like that, it can happen, but you've usually got, first, a lot less time. You've got a job and maybe kids and a marriage and other shit going on in your life. And you've also got all this other music that you've amassed for 25 or 30 years. And so it's just a completely different relationship, not to mention that your brain chemistry is still developing when you're 15. And so, there's a little part of you that's just like, yeah, we're going to drop the Smiths in there forever. We're going to put Depeche Mode's Violator in there for all time. Yeah. And it's never going to go away. And so it's, it's awesome that you are willing to kind of put in the time and effort to really continue to try to find those new sparks.
Well, and that's it. I love those new sparks. I listen, I love going to what I already know and like to listen to, but I love when something just piques my interest because that's that spark you say. Like, I mean, that's it. It's finding that, and sometimes it's, for me, it's like I hear one chord and I'm like, oh, I'm in. Like okay, let's go for a ride.
That's awesome. Do you feel like, I'll play armchair psychologist here for a minute. Do you feel like that is something that you do with other creative entities? Like, do you have that outlook about like television or film, for example?
Um, yeah, I would say sometimes, and especially like you can put that together. For instance, everybody said Breaking Bad is the greatest TV show of all time. For me, I need hook, line, and sinker. I tried, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Me too. I watched. I watched the first 5 episodes, and I was like, yeah, I'm missing the boat here. Clearly.
Yeah, like everybody's like, no, it gets better. I'm like, I don't have that time to invest. If you don't fucking catch me from that first fucking chord, like then I'm out. And like that's for me, I said to somebody, I'm like, for me, it was Sons of Anarchy. Like the first 4 minutes of that first episode, if you're not along for the fucking ride and you don't know fucking crazy shit's gonna happen and your interest is gonna be piqued constantly, I don't need that slow build. I don't need that slow burn. Punch me directly in the face. That's what I want. I want somebody to punch me directly in the face. I don't want to walk on the beach hand in hand where we're going to stroll and get to the end and figure out, oh, well, that long, slow journey was well worth it. I'm not that type of person.
Well, and one of the reasons I ask is like right now, I think there is this sort of industrial complex that exists around sort of retelling the same stories over and over and over again. And I, as a film goer and as a TV watcher, find it pretty dull. So like
because there's no everyone's afraid of their new idea.
Right. Well, I mean, like, for example, my youngest daughter's 21 and she's stoked to go see the Steven Spielberg reboot of West Side Story. And I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I just don't understand. Like, it's not like the first one's not available to watch.
Yeah.
Just go watch it. Like, how many times do I need to learn Peter Parker's origin story?
Well, like, listen, really? I've said that about, I go, with this new Batman that's coming out, I go, if they fucking tell me how his parents fucking died, I swear to God, I'm walking directly out. Why do we need to keep going over this? If you're going to this movie and you don't already know the fucking story, you don't belong in this movie.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think, that's, and they're, I don't want to get too far down the movie rabbit hole on a music podcast, but like, to me, it's kind of, it's sort of peas of the same pod. There are people who, like, you've got your buddy and all he wants to do is just listen to Led Zeppelin and talk about how awesome Zeppelin is, and he can feel like he's 17 again. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not wired that way. I listen to a bunch of shit that I have loved forever. But if I stop finding new music, I'm going to get really bored really fast.
Yeah.
It has become more difficult. Like, I'm sort of thinking about all of the work that you put in by taking what you call the deep dive into Bandcamp. But clearly, you feel like it's paying off because you're out there finding things that almost feel like these little hidden gems.
That's why we're called Hidden Tracks.
Yeah.
It's that, what's funny is when I talk to younger people and they'll ask Hidden Tracks, I'm like, well, there was this thing, there was CDs and there would be a song. Like if you look at our logo, 99 is on there.
Yeah.
Because there was that hidden track. You went through fucking all these 1 second to get to that final track that they slipped on there for you. And you were like, oh shit. And half the time people never even fucking knew it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the way to know was listen to the whole record and then you're going to see, oh wait, it says there's 12 songs on the track listing, but there's a track 13. Oh, now there's 14.
Yeah.
Well, then you just keep going, and you can wait a minute and a half and it'll get there.
Yeah.
The one that, for whatever reason, the one that always stuck out to me was, do you remember the band Cracker?
Yes.
Yeah. So Cracker had a record called Kerosene Hat, which was pretty big in the college rock circles in the early to mid 90s. And they had a song that was track 99 called Euro Trash Girl. And that was the hidden track on that record. And I remember thinking, this song is better than half of the songs on this record. And I really like that record. But I was like, why do you bury this song when you could have buried one of the others?
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? But then it was like, oh, this is like a secret. I get this really cool thing because I found it or tried to wait.
Yeah, because you waited.
And I get it. So that's kind of a parable for what you're doing in going out and like digging in. And when I use Bandcamp, typically it's because I'm looking for bands to play with out of town. So I will find a location and I will go in and I will, have a couple genre tags, and then I'll just start digging. And I have found some remarkably good shit. It is amazing what people are making out there that is getting not a little coverage, but none. Like just none.
It's amazing and disturbing too for the shit that is out there for some stuff.
That is certainly true. Yeah, that is absolutely true, because there is a lot of stuff out there that you're like, I guess this makes commercial sense in some way. And that's why I'm really completely uninterested in whatever you want to call mainstream rock. Like, I just don't care. Like, it's not interesting to me. I sort of have gotten to a point where, like, people who 20 years ago would have been considered mid-tier, to me, those are the people who are really successful. Right. Mm-hmm. It's not that pantheon of 25 people that starts with Drake and ends with Beyonce, and there's 23 people in between. Like, those people are doing fine for themselves. And again, you don't get to that point and have that degree of success without some level of talent. But like, for me, I'm much more interested in how a band like, say, the New Pornographers can have half their members who have to go, I guess I got to go get a day job. Mm-hmm. Or looking at a band who I think are a huge deal, but in the grand scheme of things probably aren't. A band like Wilco, who I've loved for a long time, and I haven't bought a new Wilco record in a decade. But like, the fact that they have their own studio, they have their own label, they tour all the time, they all make a decent living. They all, they control their own ship. Like, that is so much more fascinating to me than somebody who is this sort of curated style pop songstress icon thing. Like, I just don't find that engaging, because it feels manufactured. Even if it isn't, it feels manufactured.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, you bring up that point of like how you say a band that you feel is huge, and like, that is one of my things too in talking to people and having people on the show that, like, bands that I've known for a long time, and talking to them, be like, to me, you're fucking huge, but in the grand scheme of things, like, you're not. And that bothers the shit out of me. Like, my perception of,
but to have somebody who actively pursues music and who loves it, and to have you take the time to reach out and go, your work has had an impact on me, and I'd really like to talk to you about it. Like, that's fuel to do the next thing. Like, no, it doesn't pay the bills, but it's amazing what that does for your soul. HARBORCOAT played our last gig of the year last night at a little farmer's market that has like a greenhouse and a stage, and they have shows every weekend, and it's a really marvelous experience. And this 7-year-old girl came out to see the Stick Arounds 2 weeks ago at this same place. And she wanted to go see live music, so her parents took her, because it's like 5 to 9. And she stayed for all 4 sets. And she told her parents all she wanted for Christmas was an electric guitar. And then she doubled down on that after she saw us play. And so between the 3rd and 4th set, a couple of my bandmates went up and let her play their bass and their guitar, and showed her a chord. And we gave her they bought a couple Stick Arounds record, and then we gave her like a t-shirt and some stickers and some buttons. And she told her parents, we're coming back when HARBORCOAT's here in 2 weeks. I want to see this other band. And they were there last night, and they were there for both sets. And she bought a record, and we gave her a whole bunch of other stuff. And she just was so focused on us the entire time we played. Every time I looked up and I saw Aria, I was like, this is amazing.
She was the only one there at that moment then. Like,
there were a couple moments, yeah, where I'm like,
you're just playing for her.
I'm literally playing for her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, she wanted us to sign her record, and, she kept talking about how she desperately wants a guitar for Christmas, and she hopes that Santa got the message. And like, the whole thing, it's just like, if I have some small, tiny part in this child living a life in music, like, that is the best thing I will do all year. Like, that's fucking incredible. The fact that I even get to think about that being a possibility feels so remarkably special. it almost makes all the other bullshit that you have to put up with just white noise that you shouldn't be complaining about.
Yeah, listen, it's those moments, and that's the, one of my favorite things about this show is when somebody tells me, like, "Hey, man, I listened to that band you interviewed. They're fucking awesome." I'm like, "That's it. I got one new fan. That was like I got one new fan to that band that I believe in, and that's my end goal. That's it."
And the reality is that most of those people are going to go tell somebody else. If they really love it, that game of telephone is going to keep going on. Yeah. And you will have created one fan that winds up generating itself into 7. And again, when you're working at the level that we're working at, and I get the impression that, kind of all of the folks that you're talking to are kind of in a similar boat. It's day jobs. It's all done out of love. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of time, and it's in many cases a lot of money, but it's worth doing. And so that kind of an impact of going, hey, I helped you find 10 new folks for your audience. That won't take us from having a day job to not having a day job. But what it will do is it will allow us to feel, hey, we're making progress. We're reaching a new group of people with every little thing that we do. My bandmate Jason refers to it as stacking chips. Mm-hmm. And his whole philosophy is we're not going to be in a position where we're going to be able to do one thing or two things and it's going to make this giant leap. So you just do the thing, you tell people you did the thing, you show them what the thing looked like, and then you do it all again. Whether that's a show, a record, a podcast, a radio experience, a newspaper article, it doesn't matter. And then at the end of it, you've got this collection of chips that you've put together and you cash them in and you go, okay, this got me 700 fans, or this got me X number of listens on Spotify, or this got me X number of CD sales or vinyl sales. And what you realize is that by and large, once somebody engages at this level, your community doesn't really shrink. It just keeps growing. It's not like, we went out and we made a record and we got a bunch of help and we had one hit and hundreds of thousands of people got on board. And then 6 months later, 90% of those people forgot who the hell we were.
Yeah.
We're not building that. We're not doing that. And so in many respects, it's like building that family, and that just is so goddamn rewarding.
Yeah. And you get to choose, you know what I mean? Like you get to choose who you give it to, and then they get to choose who they give it to. And I also think it's like one of those things that appreciation of giving something to someone that will appreciate it, and they're going to pass it on to someone else who appreciate it. It's just it's almost, I kind of always equate it as building a better foundation.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You're building a better foundation because if I have an appreciation for it, and I know you will when I give it to you, it's not me just walking up to someone saying, hey, listen to this.
Right.
It's me being like, hey, I know this guy will appreciate this music, and I give it to him, and I know he's gonna, or her, and they'll just keep passing it on to that. And now the foundation of the band you're trying to promote or put out there, that foundation is now solid because you don't have the people that are going to come in for that one song and then leave you. They're always going to be there.
And there's sort of like when you're doing it that way, it's this little 2-part engagement. So it's the effort on your part to reach out to somebody and say, listen, I know you as a friend well enough to know I think you're going to like this. And having the taste to go find it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So you go out and you say, I really like this thing that I worked 10 hours on Bandcamp and I found these 3 things that I'm in love with. And then I know you well enough that I'm going to share this one with you. These other 2, I don't think you're going to be as into, but I'm going to give you this one. And then that sort of flowers in something most of the time, I think, with people who are on the same page in terms of musical appreciation. And then the likelihood is that person is either going to give that to somebody intentionally or they're going to give it to somebody accidentally. So they're going to share something on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, or they're going to directly hand it out to somebody, or they're just going to be in the car.
Yeah, it'll be on a playlist, and someone will be like, what is this?
Somebody's going to go, this is fucking awesome. What is this? And you can go, oh, this is a stick around, and they're from Lansing, Michigan, and this is what they sound like. Do you like how I just called myself awesome? I did that very, very subtly.
Listen, you worked it in perfectly and then ruined it.
I am too humble and Midwestern to just allow that to go unchecked.
I'm like the most humble person I know.
I am so humble you won't even believe it, Shane. I am excellent at being humble, and then that again, and then that if you're doing something good, that will repeat itself, because it's not about finding 1 million people. It's about finding 1,100. It's about finding as you said, a better foundation of people who are truly invested in what you do. One of the best things we ever did as a band was when we put out Ways to Hang On in 2018, we crowdfunded it. And it was a really hard thing to do, and it felt really, really gross because it's so consumer based. But the story that we told was essentially, look, this costs a lot of money to do this, even at our level. Like we're dudes. I'm sitting talking to you right now in my home studio in a 200 square foot shed out behind my house, and I can record drums in here, and I can record everything else. And we've never paid for studio time in this band. And my friend Jason, the guitar player in the Stick Rounds, has a home studio. Ian has a really nice home studio, and he just moved into a new place. And so we're very lucky. We buy a little bit of gear to kind of keep things up or to add a new tool to the toolbox. But for the most part, we don't pay for studio time. We might pay for mixing. We always pay for mastering, but it's still expensive if you want to put even CDs out. They're not expensive, but you can't put vinyl out without spending $2,500 and waiting 6 months. You just can't. You can't. And so we went to our friends and we said, listen, this costs a lot of money, and we need to raise a few $1,000s to try to pay ourselves back. And we didn't pay ourselves back, but we got a chunk of that money back. And most of that money came from people who, they weren't buying that record. They were buying us. They were buying an idea that they liked us or knew us or were friends or loved us. And they just wanted to see us be able to do the thing we wanted to do. And just that alone was worth spending 50 or $100.
Yeah. It's those little moments. I mean, I had that moment here with this show where I did just a passion episode with 4 friends. It's 4 assholes just discussing the Hall of Fame and going down lists and just arguing for 2.5 hours. And it was the only episode we never promoted. We didn't promote it. I was like, fuck it. I'm just putting it out. It's an extra episode for people on a long trip, whatever. I don't care. It's just 4 douchebags just fucking talking shit about stuff. And
this is Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did it before everybody that was inducted. We were going over I did a lot of homework. I had the top 100 people that I thought should be in and that aren't in with background stories, so everybody could do their homework and have an educated conversation about it. But the end goal of it really was the moment where I said, okay, I guess I'm doing something pretty good, because it's one of our highest rated episodes and we never did any promotion for it.
That's awesome.
And that to me it's that those little moments that you're just like, all right, it matters a little bit. And that just drives me for the next 6 months.
And again, I think when you talk about something that you have a great deal of passion for and a fair amount of knowledge about, as long as you understand that you're not going to take this to the masses, you can reach an audience. There are people out there who want to hear a viewpoint on this. And some of the reason they want to hear that viewpoint is in the case of the podcast episode you just talked about, they just want to argue with you.
Yeah.
They want to listen to you and go, okay, are you going to talk about the band that I think should be in? Whatever that band is, are you going to talk about that band? And if you don't, they're going to get pissed. And if you do, they're going to get pissed at the people who disagree with you. And that's okay. But I think what it does is it basically says there are a lot of people out there for whom this is important, even if it's something as frivolous as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Having people want to feel like they're part of a discussion about shit that matters to them. And so if I can sit down with a beer in my shed or my basement workshop or I can, go on a 2-hour drive to my family's house for the holidays, and I can listen to people talk about something that I care about, or that I want to learn something that I can care about, you'll find a group of people out there for that. They're there. I'm kind of amazed all the time.
Are.
Go ahead.
And my thing is too, like how you said, when it comes to music and when it comes to something like this, I'm not in this to be the next fucking Joe Rogan. You're not in this to, although it would be nice, but you're not in here to be the next Zeppelin or REM or Foo Fighters. It's because it really matters to you. And I think that's where I love finding music, because I can tell when I hear a song that it fucking matters that you just wrote that song and recorded it. And it's the same thing with me trying to bring you to light is I care. It means so much that you recorded something that got to me that I said, I fucking care about this.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. The other thing that I think is it may be even more important to me is that you have the courage to say, this is what matters, and I'm going to take the time and the money to put a podcast up so that other people might hear it. And then you try to build a community out of that. And so I think for a lot of people, they like a thing, and maybe they do tell a friend, like we were talking about earlier. But I wonder sometimes if what we need in some cases is more champions like you. Like, maybe we just need a few more people to be out there on the front line and saying, nobody knows about this, and I don't understand why. Nobody loves this, and I don't get it. And then you go to a show and you realize, even a band like mine, you go to a show and you realize, well, there's 80 other people here. Clearly, I'm not the only one who loves this, but you feel a little bit less out on an island when you get the opportunity to do that. But a band like mine, getting to New Jersey is not an easy thing.
Yeah. Well, I also think people are scared a lot of times about, and I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I had this idea for a long time that I wanted to do this, and I was scared to do it because I was scared of failure. And and then, I had a swift kick in the ass from someone who was like, dude, who gives a fuck? Like, you know more about music than anybody I've ever met in my fucking life. And that's all you ever talk about is music. And you try to teach people about music. Like, there's other people that fucking want that. And and the way it was described to me, you're being selfish by not sharing it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is great.
And like lit a fire, like, fuck you, man. I'm not. And then I was like, oh shit, maybe I am being selfish and I'm hoarding it for myself. and that was that moment. And I was like, why have I been sitting on this for like 2.5 years and thinking about trying to start something? Why didn't I just do it when I had the idea?
Yeah. And I, that makes me think of, you use the phrase failure. So one of the real freedoms of being able to make music at this level is the only failure is making something that's not good. That's it. There are no commercial repercussions. I'm not going to get dropped by the label that I run and own. Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on how much self-loathing I have, which on some days is pretty high. Yeah. But that's not a concern. I don't have to worry about how many units did we move. The only question is it good? Did we do something really good? And if we didn't, we're not going to put it out. We're at a point in our lives where nobody's clamoring for it. I mean, yes, I have people say, hey, when you put another record out? But if you say I'm working on it, that's great. That they're excited. They're not mad at you that you haven't put a record out in 2 years. Yeah. So for me, the real beauty of this, the real freedom of it is not having to deal with that. I grew up in East Lansing, and there was a band here called the Verve Pipe. You may have heard of them.
Yes,
they had a really big hit with the Freshmen, and they were a really big deal. And they kind of came out of the local scene, and they put out their first full-length record that had that song on it. It was produced by Jerry Harris and the Talking Heads, and it was huge. Like, they were on a major label, and things went great, and it was enormous. And then they turned right around and they made another record, and it tanked. Like, this was like 96, 97, maybe a little later than that. And they put out a second record in the height of the CD era. And it sold like 40,000 copies, which on a major label is like selling negative numbers of records.
Yep.
And the songwriter and frontman for that band, Brian Vander Ark, has a really great TED talk about it. He did a TEDx in Grand Rapids a few years ago where he talks about, like, we failed because I didn't work hard enough. We failed because I didn't really hone the songs. We got success, and then I went, well, we'll just make another record because now we know how to do it. And I don't have to deal with that kind of pressure. You know, I would be interested to see how I would perform if I did. But I also know that that leads to a whole different set of challenges and anxieties that, you know, maybe weigh down the work that you're producing. Maybe one of the reasons that we've been successful is because the only people we have to please are ourselves. And so we don't have to cut corners and we don't have to make choices we don't want to make because nobody else gives a shit. There's a freedom in failure not really being a factor.
Yeah, and one of my favorite lines in, you know, comes from, as I'm literally staring at an action figure of it, but from Gene Simmons saying, listen, you get signed to a major label, the one thing that is good, and then they'll tell you the second thing that's bad. He goes, you have your whole life to create your first album.
Yeah.
You have 6 months to make your second.
Yep.
He goes, so that's the hardest part about, you know, being in a world where money was a factor when major labels were so important. He's like, first album, he goes, you listen to a lot of bands, their first album is fucking fantastic because they had their whole life to prepare for it and make it.
Yeah.
And then their second album, they had 6 months. So
Yeah.
anyone who continued to make great records one after the other deserve more credit than anybody else because it's a different game and it's so hard to replicate.
And there's a different level of pressure because when you're making a record before you're signed to a label, what you are doing is you are making a record for yourself. Then once you deliver a record that's done and you put it out and it has some degree of success, like that Verve Pipe record, then that second record is automatically going to, the baseline for that is the first record. So even if you were to replicate that massive success that they had with that first one, that's not considered a success anymore because you've already done that, because that's how commerce works. You have to always tick upward. And it gets to the point where people are making a decision about your record that don't have any interest in you musically. They have interest in you as a product or as something that they can promote or move as a unit. You know, there's a great story that Jeff Tweedy tells about delivering Summer Teeth, which is probably my favorite Wilco record. And they didn't think there was a single. And so he wrote Shot in the Arm on an airplane to appease them. And then after he did it, he said he would never do that again. And he didn't, because after that, they didn't really work with record companies as much. But I can't imagine, as a music fan and a lover of that band, listening to that record without Shot in the Arm, which admittedly is a great song, and going, yeah, there's just nothing here worthwhile.
Yeah.
That's fucking nonsense. I get that, especially then, record companies wanted something that was clearly marketable and promotable. But I don't understand how you can look at something, especially when you've been grooming a band for 3 records, and go, okay, this is clearly a progression. It's something different. It's still catchy. It still sounds like this band. There's a million ways to sell this. I don't understand for the life of me how you can look at that and go, this isn't good enough.
Yeah. Well, it's because there could be different people at that time, and again, all you are is just a line on a fucking metric scale.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's all you are. You're in someone's Excel spreadsheet, and I mean, that's what it is, and that's why it's tough, and that's why it's so great the age we are right now, like where we can get music, but it's also so bad because no one can really, you know, like we've talked about many times, not have that day job and make music 100% your life.
Yeah. And I think for me, what it really comes down to, and I'm actually working on a project right now, it really comes down to education. It really comes down to letting people who care about music know how it works now. I don't want to do it in some pedantic way where I'm sitting here and going, okay, well, you paid X number of cents per Spotify stream and blah, blah, blah. But like, I want to, so what I'm doing is I'm actually talking to people who I am friends with, who I know through the world of music, who have been in this game, in some cases, a very long time, and in some cases only recently. And I just want to talk to them about their experience and find out what are their challenges, what are their struggles, and how do you break through the noise? Because again, now that we've lowered the bar for entry, anybody can jump in, which is great, but it makes it that much more difficult for your band to get any kind of ears, unless we're lucky enough to find someone like you. But what I'm really curious about is, how is this affecting the way people work? Like right now, the Stick-Arounds are working on a new EP. And we've kind of come to the spot where, like, we think, at least for the near-term future, this is going to be the best delivery model for us. Because there's so much involved in making a record that's 10, 12, 14 songs, and it takes so long to finish it, that there's such a gap that we'd be better off putting out 2 EPs in 2022 than one full-length record. And so I want to hear stories like that from other people who are contemporaries, who are doing work that I think is good and interesting, but again, very, very much below the radar. And in turn, through these personal stories, the people who care about music can listen to it and maybe get a greater understanding that, like, yeah, if I actually spent $20 on a t-shirt, that makes an enormous difference. That's thousands of Spotify streams.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I tell people all the time, and during the show is, if you truly like what you hear here and you like the band, please buy their merchandise, because that's the only way they make their money.
And one of the things I've been thinking about this for weeks. One of the things I've been really remiss in not doing is I just want to put a virtual tip jar up on our website. You don't want to buy a thing. You don't want to have me mail a thing to your house. You just want to support us. Drop $10 in there. Drop $5 in there. It's just a way for you to say, I like this. I'm listening on a streaming service, and I'm not going to stop listening to it on a streaming service. And I don't want you to send me a CD, but I want to support you.
Yeah.
So I think we need to implement something like that. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate, people like you who are out there and really, fighting a good fight and trying to get the word out. It means the world, man.
Yeah. Well, talking about support. I mean, it kind of seems like we could be here until tomorrow. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Me too.
I hope we can do it again at some point down the road.
I would love
that. Why don't you tell people how to find everything that you're doing to support you?
Okay. So the easiest way to do that is you can go to our website, which is phonophorerecords.com. It's PHONOPHORE records.com. And that's where you can find all the HARBORCOAT stuff, all of the Stick-Around stuff. And then we also have stuff from my old band, the Pantones, Jeff from the Stick-Arounds, his old band, the Gentlemen Callers, and some friends of ours that we just recently added to the label called Royal Scene, who are another power pop band here in Lansing. And we've got a bunch of really great stuff coming in 2022. On that site, there is a spot where you can sign up for the email list. So make sure you check that out. Or you can just email me directly at phonophore@gmail.com. The Stick-Arounds and HARBORCOAT are both on the socials, on Instagram and on Facebook. And the record label is at both of those spots as well. Or you can always find us over on Bandcamp. You can just search for Photophore Records, HARBORCOAT, or the Stick-Arounds, and it's all there as well.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to move into our last segment, where this is your point, where finding things that I like. It's our weekly threes. It's 3 things that we're listening to right now that we would like someone to check out.
Yeah.
So if you got 3 things you're listening to that you want people to check out, now's the time.
Now I got to go back through. I've just spent the last 2 hours talking shit about streaming services, and I have to go back and look at what I recently added.
Sometimes I try to type and let you know, hey, go into your Spotify and
in my Apple
pick your 3
Music.
things.
Oh my God, what an asshole! Yeah, let me. This is like the ultimate moment of irony, where like I have been dethroned and it is clear what a dick I am. It's pretty obvious. 3 things I have been listening to a lot lately. I have been really enjoying the new Amy Mann record. It's called Queens of the Summer Hotel, and it's actually songs that were inspired by the book Girl Interrupted. Most people might know the film with Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie. But I've been a longtime fan of Amy Mann. I think she's just brilliant, and I think she's got an amazing voice, and I just think she is tremendous. So that record's really good, and all of her stuff is really great. I'm also a huge Guided by Voices fan, and I'm
a huge Guided by
Voices fan. Oh
my
God. And I can't keep up, Shane. Like,
no, Pollard just fucking, he's like, I made the comment to somebody the one day, I'm like, Drake stole all of his fucking drops from Pollard, right? He just continues writing songs and throwing them out there to the world.
Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, the guy is just a nonstop machine. He is a mid-60s-year-old shriveling alcoholic, and somehow every time I go see them, it is like some weird like force of nature. Yeah. And I'm utterly and completely befuddled by how he does it. But the reason I've been listening to a lot of Guided by Voices, so this is an exclusive for your listeners. In 2022, our label is going to be doing a Guided by Voices tribute comp. We currently have like 30-something submissions that people are working on. And we're going to put that out probably late spring, early summer. And it's going to be digital only, but it's going to be really fun. And we're going to be taking some donations for a local charity. And it's just kind of a way to spread the love of GBV and for people to sort of also find out about the bands that are kind of in our circle. And I'm excited.
Now I have something to look forward to.
Oh my God. I have been diving in, and what I have been listening to the most is I am really starting to reevaluate whether or not Under the Bushes, Under the Stars is my favorite GBV product, because I just can't stop listening to it. Like, it's got my favorite Tobin Sprout songs on it.
Tobin Sprout's like, I literally like bought all the Japan pressings of Tobin Sprout solo stuff.
Oh my God.
Because it was the only way to get it.
Were you lucky enough to see him this fall?
No.
Holy shit.
I've basically been on tour all fall. So so many different shows that I was at that it was hard. And GBV literally just played recently, but I saw him, I guess, 2 years ago.
I saw him with a 4-piece band at a little venue in Grand Rapids, and it was like watching Tobin front Crazy Horse. It was amazing. It was just
that's awesome.
Fucking stupid how good it was. Like, it was just I can't even imagine how that guy isn't so much bigger. I mean, this just ties into the whole conversation we've had today. Yeah. Like, I just can't imagine. And
he's a genius.
He's well, and how unfair it is that you're a great songwriter and you're in a band with Bob Pollard.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, that feels like the universe fucking with you. You're like, hey, I write some pretty good songs. And then Bob Pollard shows up and he's like, well, I have 71.
Yeah.
And I wrote those yesterday. I also spent 4 hours collaging, and I drank 31 Miller Lights.
Yeah.
How?
And a bottle of Jack.
How did you do that? How is that happening? I also, and this has maybe been going on for a few months, but this is a thing that I've really been enjoying lately. There is, you familiar with a band called The Chills?
Chills. I am not.
They are a New Zealand band. They're probably most famous for a record they put out in 1990. And the name is totally escaping me right now. I don't
That's
know.
Fine.
I don't know why. Submarine Bells is the record they're most famous for. They had a song called Heavenly Pop Hit. They put out a record a couple of years ago called Snowbound, that I think is just about as good of a second act album as a band can put out. They went like 10 or 11 years without putting out a record, and then they put one out in 2015, one in 2018, and one in 2021. And I've been listening to those 3 records kind of all fall long. I have just been, I think that guy's a great songwriter, and his name's Martin Phillips. And if anybody's interested and a dork for music docs like I am, there is a terrific documentary called The Triumph and Tragedy of the Chills, the story of Martin Phillips, and it's just so good.
Well, now I know what I'm doing with the rest of my day.
Yeah, it's fucking amazing, Shane. It's really
I'm a total nerd. Like, I just spent a lot of money to finally get Malfunction, the Andrew Wood story.
I'm not familiar.
Andrew Wood, Mother Love Bone.
Okay,
Pearl Jam before, Pearl Jam. But yeah, so like I have it literally, the documentary on Andrew Wood that I'm so excited for, and every single thing Andrew Wood ever recorded on his own. So like,
and I know the Chills doc is available on Apple.
Okay.
It's just called The Chills, The Triumph and Tragedy of Martin Phillips.
I actually think I saw that, because that's all I watch. Like, and especially when I travel, like I watch music documentaries on the plane all the time. Like, that's what I'm watching.
Absolutely.
All right, that's a good 3. Give me something to do. My 3 for this week. Going to start with Duncan Fellows, indie rock band out of Austin, Texas. There's an album called Sadlands. Recently came out. Really good. Something for people to check out. My next is a band called Active Bird Community. They're labeled, as a Brooklyn-based band, which a lot of bands are Brooklyn-based now, but they are still originally from New York, but they have an album called Amends. I also got to see them open for whatchamacallit. How can the name escape me? Oh, We Were Promised Jetpacks. There it goes. That's why it escapes me, because it's so many words, but got to see them open for them, and they were really good and made me find more stuff of what they're doing. And last but not least, one of my favorite songwriters and creators, Roger Joseph Manning Jr., has an album that came out in 2020 called Glamping. I got it. I forgot to listen to it, and I listened to it this week over and over again. And for anybody who doesn't know, he's from Jellyfish, one of my favorite bands of all time. So Roger Joseph Manning Jr., Glamping is the name of the album. Check it out.
I like that Jellyfish shit.
I absolutely fucking love it.
It's real good.
I think it's one of the most underrated things of the 90s of all time.
And I like a bunch of those solo Jason Faulkner records too. Yeah,
the Faulkner records are fantastic. And I love when a band makes me find everything else.
Yeah.
Like the 3 o'clock and whatchamacallit, what was it? The Beatnik Beach, which was basically Jellyfish before Jellyfish.
Yeah, and
that's the kind of stuff.
I went through a phase where like I was finding, I had a stretch for like 6 or 8 months, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where I just kind of fell into most of the 3 o'clock discography one way or the other. Like I would just go to a shop and they would have it, and I'd be like, God damn. And the one they have is the one I don't have. Like it was just incredible luck.
Well, want to thank you so much for being here, Matt. This has been fucking awesome.
Thank you so much, Shane. Today. This has been so much fun. Like you said, we could do this all day.
Yeah. Everyone out there in the world, you know what you need to do next. You go out, listen to the stick-arounds in HARBORCOAT, and have a great fucking time. Max was a kind of a square growing up, a real late bloomer as well. He had a hard time playing the hellion, hard enough time being himself. The slipshod effort that he made at school, counted by total retention of all of the data he had been handed, though he rarely paid any attention. He doesn't want to get out, like he wants to get back. Decades to crest, though the years never picked up the slack. Muscle car shows out in the car lot, subject to his indignation. Cutlass and Cody, get you cute girls, left Max with fury, frustration. He doesn't want to get out, like he wants to hit back. Decades to crest, oh, the years never picked up the slack. It took years for the rust to fade away. Please don't call him
squeals again. It's 3 a.m. down here at Lot 148. You're picking pieces up of broken coffee cups, tiny shards of porcelain mistakes. Neighbors' lights click on. We're the entertainment on the lawn. You can hear us shouting from the bedroom, and you jumped up to check out all the fuss. And this time tonight, oh, it's our turn to fight. I promise you know better than us. We rode out to the night to carry on the fight underneath a blanket full of stars. Disappointment rains its blows, and tell me something I don't know. Do other people have to try this hard? As neighbors' lights click on, we're the entertainment on the lawn. You could hear us shouting from the bedroom. You jumped up to check out all the fuss. And this time tonight, oh, it's our turn to fight. I promise you know better than us. As neighbors' lights click on, we're the entertainment on the lawn. You could hear us shouting from your bedroom. You jumped up to check out all the fuss. And this time tonight, oh, it's our turn to fight. I promise you know better than us. I promise you know better than us. I promise you know better than us.
Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.